So everything we're up against. Well, I'm going to get into a little bit more about what the Nephilim reversal grid is. I talked about a lot of the grid stuff yesterday, but false flag agendas to lower consciousness and create the false fake war on terror. And that started with the 9/11 thing, but that's been going on with, you know, most world wars. 5G, obviously. And some have talked about the non-weaponized version of it, but I mean, it's still something that we need to understand. And 5G is coming at the same time that people are talking about 5D. And so this whole concept of a second wave is only possible if we submit to something that we're already being pushed into as a humanity. When we see how the pandemic affected people and now the riots and the Black Lives Matter, I mean, a lot of it is taking advantage of well-intentioned people that really do want to heal. But what it does is it begins to feed this potential of a second wave that we would not want, because we need to focus on this other kind of second wave that has a lot more to do with starving those systems and coming together and being mutually loving and supporting in whatever traumas are being lit up through these trigger events. Because all adversity can inspire transformation and growth. All adversity that we see in partnerships can either bond people into a greater love and understanding or cause a breakup and separation. So we are here to break the negative patternings of this continual loop that we've been in that wants to produce, you know, an event that throws us into an unconscious trigger that is being falsely represented in society as some sort of, you know, solution, and it becomes political. And but a lot of us don't see through the lens of the politics part, and the political part is very much where people, you know, get lost due to loyalty or due to just not being able to want to look, you know, deeper behind the scenes that, you know, actually something owns both parties and has funded both sides of war and is looking to create that constant division. But there's something really beautiful emerging, I feel, in this administration, but I'm not going to get into it, that is almost counteracting all of that, but has to sort of play the game in order to be able to do that. But I can definitely tell you, and you don't have to agree, that something's going on right now on this earth that is not part of the plan that they have set up to create a new world order and full on enslavement of human consciousness and planetary consciousness. There is something operating on our behalf. And instead of giving our power away to it, because these are the lessons we're learning, I think we can just, you know, focus on ourselves, our own inner work and our ability to come together, but at least send good energy to those forces that have our best interests at heart. And they are there. Okay, so another big deal, pedophilia and SRA. So when you see a big reaction that we're seeing right now in the world to an event that was played out in the mainstream news that has created this mass sort of reaction, we don't notice that so much with the pedophilia or SRA. All these stories have been exposed. Crimes against humanity have been exposed, but you don't see people changing their Facebook profile picture over it. You don't really see a whole lot except for maybe memes saying Epstein didn't kill himself. So there is an acknowledgement of that, but there isn't an uproar like we're seeing with this sort of race war. And it's a re-triggering of something that we've already been through. And in a lot of ways, we have reconciled these things. And a lot of us have understood that this is definitely a projection and a program, because deep down, I don't believe that the human soul has any concept of being racist, because we all do acknowledge on some level of our being and in our higher awareness that we are connected, we are one, we have been fragmented into many different pieces and parts. And that diversity is shown in the root races. But these strands or these diversities and differences are a part of what we need to connect with in order to rebuild our DNA architecture. So we're actually all helping each other, you know, through coming together. So being taught that we hate each other or there's some sort of racism or discrimination, you know, makes it very difficult to work it out with each other without knowing these tactics and mechanisms that are being used behind the scenes. So a lot of the reasons there's not the outrage of the stuff that we know exists is because it's almost too much for people to process. And a part of this paradigm shift is being able to recognize that so that we're not feeding something unconsciously or consenting to something unconsciously to begin to recognize that the ones that are pulling the strings and creating a lot of these movements are actually connected to things like human trafficking, pedophilia, and SRA. And it's all part of that deep state, you know, cabal energy that a lot of people still aren't able to recognize, but a lot of people are. I mean, it's amazing to see, you know, how many people are seeing through it. And, but again, you know, this is all part of our inner work to break duality, to play our part in what it takes to heal the wound so that we're not an open wound with, you know, an infection, an AI infection, an archonic mind parasite infection of an unhealed wound that is being masked by false solutions that we think are maybe solving a problem. And that is the danger right now, is not going inward and just looking to fight or battle something outside of ourselves. We have to go inward. We have to understand what those triggers mean for us and form stronger and better communities that can address these things with love, compassion, and patience. And there's just a lot to educate people on, but unfortunately it's a very targeted thing, the whole concept of conspiracies, which really aren't conspiracies. But I see that changing, because as much as Obamagate's not really being talked about, or Hillary going into needing to testify, and the changes that we're seeing in the royal family, and the fact that Buckingham Palace had boards on its doors, and something, you know, happening with the Vatican, you know, they'll do anything to mask all of that so that they can still pick up on our loosh and gain enough of a foothold to distract us completely away from the really good things that are taking place. That, but anyway, we know they're hanging on for dear life. So transhumanism, of course, we're dealing with that, and that is connected to continually, you know, harvesting our energies and really linking us into technology in a way that really takes away our personal sovereignty. Mind control, implants, targeting, brain mapping, AI, media distortions. That's sort of the root of it, though. We have to understand that none of these dark technologies really work if we're not a programmed person. When we're in our authenticity, when we're in our heart, when we're connected to our higher awareness, when we acknowledge that relationship and stay consistent with it, we're not limited to these nets. We can burn through that. And that's why we see that a lot of people are immune to some of these trigger events, because they've already busted through the net. And there are many different ways to bust through the net. One would be going through the dark night of the soul, kind of dying and being reborn, letting go of identities that don't serve you, getting out of relationships that rob from you, that vampire off you, that put you in a state of unworthiness or lack of self-awareness. So being able to bust through the net and recognizing what this window period represents, you know, the more we can stay aligned with that, the more we can empower that within ourselves, the more we can shed positive energy on ourselves and the world, knowing that this is here and present, you know, will keep a lot of people from, you know, losing faith or losing hope or losing their minds, because there's all these positive things are taking place. I mean, the fact that we're all coming together, all these events that we're able to create, I mean, this all has such a greater impact than we can imagine. But the media distortions are a big one. False movements, you know, most of these movements have good intention behind them, but they get hijacked. Feminism has been hijacked. Some of the new age stuff has been hijacked. And what we're seeing right now is to me, another level of that, where people are really desperate to heal. They haven't had a chance to go through maybe the dark night of the soul or red pill themselves fully and completely, or understand this whole other level of information that has been kept from us. It's very difficult to process things in these times without having just knee-jerk reactions, because there's really nothing to go on except for this is the society that they have attached themselves to, that they think is just a part of, like, you know, being human. Despite its wars and battles and conflicts, it's very hard for some people to see the facades and the tactics that they use to continually keep us in this loop. Masculine and feminine distortions are a big one, and I'm going to get into that. The medical industry taking advantage of our disempowerment. And again, when I mention some of these things, it's not like all negative. There's a lot of well-intentioned people, though, that have been pulled into a system that doesn't allow, like, more of an openness to greater technologies that can help us, heal us, cure cancer, and all these kind of things. There's gatekeepers that make it very difficult for very skilled and dedicated individuals to, you know, get the full kind of education. As we see, we're learning dead sciences in our science classes, and where we're not getting the full picture of what our capacities are and what our dormant abilities are all about. So the medical industry is not really connected to helping us to wake up. It's helping us to mitigate, you know, symptoms. It's helping with big time emergencies, and there's a lot of positive that, you know, comes out of it. But when we look at the bigger picture of it all, it doesn't really help us to know ourselves more. We're given conditions and diagnoses, or being told we have certain conditions, and mostly prescribed drugs. And in buying into all that, we definitely don't get closer to ourselves. Doesn't mean that we can't or counteract that if we take the initiative, but it's not really designed to do that. It's designed to throw us a label, especially, you know, the mental health industries. And then we kind of carry that burden of, you know, a label that doesn't appreciate the fact that every time we face a physical symptom, an illness, an injury, any kind of adversity, it's an opportunity for growth and transformation, and it opens a doorway. Thing is, we keep hitting our head on the door because we're not allowing ourselves to access the parts of ourselves that know exactly what to do in those moments. As we know, our immune system knows how to respond to disease. We have to keep our immune system healthy. We know that when we're injured, something naturally comes in to begin to repair a wound. But the mind control has separated us so much from ourselves that our organic connection with these abilities and acknowledgement of the growth that it can induce is sort of lost to us, because we're so afraid of fear and anxiety that we just want it fixed and solved. But we got to breathe through it. And in those times that we face the fear and anxiety or confusion about what our body is trying to tell us, that we seek self-knowledge and we seek to get to know ourselves better in the face of it, because we're sort of uncoiling from all these events that have taken place by moving back through those traumas and reliving those events, but reclaiming what we lost in the face of it instead of losing ourselves further. And that's where the timelines show such a, you know, difference. In one, you know, taking us into greater enslavement, and one taking us into self-realization, self-knowledge, unity consciousness, and understanding, you know, sacred union and this greater love story that we're all a part of. So religious distortions, yeah, I mean, it creates extremes, people either rebelling against it or being, you know, like pulled into it. It's very important that we understand the importance of spiritual freedom. And, you know, some things serve a person for a certain amount of time. So it's not saying anything is bad or good. It's just saying that if we don't journey a little bit further and we don't go beyond these constructs, you know, there's danger in that. Just like if we give our power away to a relationship and we lose a sense of ourselves while we're in that partnership. It's just very important to, you know, cultivate one, and in doing that, we can see through some of the things that might not serve us that we can eventually let go of. But, you know, some of these things are important for people to experience in their lives as well. But we see, you know, as long as division is created, that's all that matters. So if there's a rebelliousness towards, you know, people, you know, connecting with, you know, God's source, it's like, then they're choosing like the left-hand path or the dark side because they're rebelling against the church because they don't like what they've seen. I mean, it's just, we need to come into wholeness and balance within ourselves and integrate light and dark and integrate polarity. Because some people, yeah, they just become atheists or they give up or they just turn to Lucifer. I mean, it's just like, we have to recognize that all these archetypes exist within us and we need to harmonize them. We need to integrate them and allow our higher awareness to steer our ship, but bring that into the physical plane so that it's operating our physical vessel. Anything less than that, you know, is a part of why we manifest so many lessons in our life. And most tragedies that we experience can give us a wake-up call. So we need to bless these adversities because that's how we integrate polarity. We don't want to have too much judgment on the negatives that happen in our life because it's a teacher. It helps us to step back. It helps us to see things about ourselves that need healing. It helps us to have boundaries. It helps us to learn about energy, helps us to really dig deep. So we gotta, you know, allow adversity to guide us home just as much as we appreciate the blessings that give us a sense of inspiration and hope and motivation. But I always bless the adversities. I wouldn't be where I am today if I didn't find some sort of peace and connection with what the adversities were telling me. I wouldn't be able to heal my body and avoid going to doctors if I didn't understand the root of some of the physical symptoms. And so I remember as a child, I would just journey into the root of something because I didn't want to go to the doctor. So I would just put my hands on whatever might have been hurting, even if it was just, you know, any kind of illness. And I just remember putting my hands on it and journeying into, where did I lose a piece of myself? Where did a trauma event take place that I'm unconscious to? Where do I need to release energy that is showing up in the form of symptoms? You know, I mean, there's all sorts of reasons behind physical symptoms. So giving ourselves the opportunity to get to know ourselves in the moments that our body is trying to send us a message will actually be key in how we overcome all these, you know, different things. So when we look at, you know, a virus or any kind of, you know, illnesses that come upon our life, you know, we're dealing with the micro macro again. You know, when it's on a larger scale, it has to do with, you know, where everybody else is at. There are much deeper reasons. We could say, yes, bioweaponry, we're being attacked, or, you know, it's being overly exaggerated, and it's designed to just make us all like wear masks and separate ourselves from each other. Yes, those dark agendas do exist. But when we can see sort of a more metaphysical approach as to why parts of us are weakened by this, we have to see that in these times right now, we're in a massive paradigm shift. And so we're going to be played by the dark technologies that have been in place for a long time, with the false flags and the different events that take place. And we're going to be victimized by that. And we're going to have physical symptoms connected to it. Or we can see a much larger picture, and we can see these as catalytic events that can help us to see that the reason it's impacting us and the reason we're allowing it into our system is because maybe we're having a hard time letting go of the old paradigm. Maybe we're not able to access something that can transmute all of this. And so the weakening effect of all of this is also a reminder, because a great awakening is happening, but very often some kind of event needs to take place to help us differentiate between a catalyzing event of where we can become empowered by it, and an event to pull us in and enslave us even more and make us compliant to restrictions and rules that don't really make any sense if you really look at, you know, what they're attempting to do. I mean, they're making us feel like we're all going to infect each other, that we're all diseased. This whole I can't breathe that they're chanting, wearing masks, needing to, you know, kind of separate, and then all of a sudden we're being thrown together, or people being thrown together in protest. It's like, you know, I mean, they're throwing every card they can because of what I feel is because of, you know, the election and the fact that these crimes against humanity have been so exposed, that they're playing as many cards as they possibly can, to the point where they probably won't have a lot more if we can just stay on top of it and be that second wave and ride this wave in an empowered way and in a conscious way. Because I can tell you, regardless of where we're hit, whether it's being targeted by a bioweapon, some sort of psychotronic weapon, something that is in our environment. I mean, we've been dealing with dark technologies for thousands of years. And so those who are awakened have been able to utilize it through being able to see through it, seeing the contrast between falsity and artificial connected to, or like in contrast with authenticity. And so we get to claim the rest of ourselves back in the face of the threat of it being pulled away. And that's why we can allow all these events to be a part of how we rebuild and come together, instead of giving our power away out of the fear of, you know, what it represents. So yeah, who knows if they'll even bother with the fake alien invasion.
Portal to Ascension proudly presents the second annual conference at sea. Step aboard the Celebrity Infinity for Mystery School at Sea, an extraordinary 10-day voyage through the mystical lands of ancient Greece and Turkey, sailing from March 20th to 30th, 2026. Journey through the sacred sites of the ancients, Nafplio, Heraklion, Rhodes, Kavala, Thessaloniki, Ephesus, Athens, and more, where cosmic wisdom, lost civilizations, and divine knowledge converge. featuring world-renowned authors, researchers, and channelers, guiding you into the deep memory of these sacred lands, unlocking past lives, sacred geometry, and the hidden consciousness of the ages. Immerse yourself in transformative lectures, hands-on workshops, and exclusive special events, each custom-tailored to help you remember that you are an initiate of the Mystery School. This isn't just a cruise, it's a portal to higher awareness, an awakening to the wisdom encoded in your soul. Are you ready to remember?